Hey guys, welcome to the woods. Well, I got a nice log to sit on and nice little babbling brook. It sounds good. I like to listen, cup my ears and listen for where the best sounding waterfalls are. And this is a good one. I have a bunch of ponds I've made, I don't know, 4. But anyway, and I guess in those 4 ponds, I've tuned my my waterfall features many times. So maybe I feel like I have more practice at it than I'm giving myself credit for. All right, so things that were on my mind lately, that's the only thing worth talking about, right? Then it's easy, it just flows. It's like, this is just stuff that I'm chewing on. Hopefully it's beneficial to you guys. But that topic of how am I really helping people? You know, you can tell people things, but you know, there's the saying, words don't teach. And it's so true. You teach by example, you know. But I always feel too, like even if I was going to try to tell somebody directions, like on this spiritual journey, which is really the only journey to be on. It's the only journey you are on. It's just, are you sleeping or are you on your journey? If you're on your journey, then you're thriving, you're challenging yourself, you're growing, you're developing, and you're trying to expand your sense of who you are and what we're doing here. So that journey is what we're talking about today. And every time, that's the only thing I think is worth talking about, to be honest with you. Because when you're on the right mental journey, then everything else just falls into place. And I guess that's why I don't feel like it's very useful to give other people opinions or corrections or assistance or teachings or whatever else. Because if you're not on your own, if you're not working on your own inner dialogue, I can hear so many people that just sort of randomly, casually, jokingly often say negative things about themselves. And I'm like, why would you do that? And I get why we do that. We do that when you're in a funky mindset. You can only see funk in yourself and the world around you. You're going to see all the funky frequencies going to come out of everything around you. Just like we've, excuse me, we've talked about this point before, that like right now, you know, there's hundreds of frequencies going right around me. If I had a radio right here, we could play a whole bunch of different radio stations, AM and FM. We could pick up TV stations, all kinds of stuff. So there's frequencies always around us. Sorry. But it's a matter of, what am I receiving from these woods, as an example? If I'm receiving a frequency of everything's going wrong, we're destroying the planet, pollution, you know. Like sometimes I'll walk on the trails and there's broken glass and trash and things like that sometimes. And it, depending on how I feel about it, I can sort of tell where I am on my frequency. But we get that out of other people. You're around some people, sometimes you're like, oh, we just had a great time. We just really connected and we had a really good conversation and it was such a great day. Well, what do you think's causing that? It's your own frequency. You pull the positive frequency out of other people. You can tell what frequency others are in. How conscious are you of your own frequency? And how good are you and how conscious are you of the tools that you would use to bring your frequency up? And that brings me to my point of, there's certainly something to be said for being present for others and doing for others and that sort of stuff. But I find most people are just doing for others for the sake of staying off their own journey and working on their own sense of things and their own inner dialogue. And generally what keeps people from getting on their own journey and saying, you know what, I can't help you if I can't swim myself, I can't come rescue you. And a lot of people who can't swim only focus on rescuing. And what I mean by swimming is, if you can't stay in a positive mindset, if funky people pull you down, then you're of no use to anybody. You've got to be the person who's pulling people up out of their funkiness. So I've done that for a lot of years with customers and employees and friends and family, and but it's really tricky. And it's tricky for me to hold a high sense of oneness of the planet as a way to describe what this frequency would be like. That sense of oneness, a sense of perfection, the sense of it's a work in progress and we can't mess it up and we never get it done. So we just keep moving on and we just keep trying and we just keep going and I know for sure even saying it that way sounds so phony. It's like, I know for sure. It's like, it's just what is. Woo. That was a big one. I just want to see what he was. It wasn't a cicada. Oh, that was a cool bug. You gotta check this guy out. I guess a moth of some type. Looks like he has big eyes, but those are just fake eyes. All right. It came in with a hard landing, like smacked me in the back of the head. All right, where was I? Just in case you thought this was a green screen behind me, now you know I'm really actually in the woods. I haven't had any mosquitoes biting on me. I've had before, mainly at the eastern shore, there's so many darn ticks down there, where little ticks are like crawling across my screen. That's really distracting. This bug wasn't so distracting. I guess partially because I'm used to it, because cicadas have been dive bombing me all summer. But they're pretty much gone. So, all right, so back to my point of finding the tools that help you bring your frequency up, you know? And one of the things that I would say for sure is if you're listening to a certain frequency a lot, you get so comfortable in it and you tend to dial to that one all the time. So most people are at a certain frequency all the time. And, you know, well, everybody's got their range, but they'll stay in a certain range. So they never have really blissful moments or really like overjoyed or, you know, everyone's had the spectrum. So it's hard to say. Like my sense of everything's working out and my sense of oneness and peace and joy and a sense that, you know, that I have nothing to worry about. I never did and I never will. When I really feel that deep inside and own that and everything around me starts to pop in a positive and bring its positive vibration out. And then if my mind wanders into whatever conversation, of course, this will never happen when your mind's busy thinking about things. But sometimes your mind's blank and something just enters into your mind and you're like, it's so rich and deep feeling of love, I guess. You know, again, it's frequency stuff, so it's hard to really explain. I can't say this is the one thing that was said to me. In fact, I remember times and places and what woods it's happened and when, but sometimes I just have like a energetic download of love vibration that's so deep. And usually something will be crossing my mind at the time, but it's like you walk into a frequency, like all of a sudden you got your dial onto a radio, like those, you know, CBs, and I think I have another word for them, but anyway, you'd, you know, be looking for sounds and stations and stuff from, you know, halfway around the world back when I was a kid. And you'd be playing, you just hear a lot of static, and all of a sudden, ooh, I'm getting something, and you dial it in. That's sort of what it's like. It's like when you get to the high-flying disc, the tuned in, tapped in, turned on, you pick up on different frequencies. You pick up on some really, really awesome thoughts. And it's not going to be so much detailed things sometimes. It's sort of like with a big painted brush about just how everything is just working out for this planet. And this is the point I was at when the bug hit me. Knowing that everything is always working out for us, that everything in the planet is getting better and better, and for humans and the planet, it's getting better all the time. We're going to certainly eventually get to the point where we're a real asset to the planet, and we're causing nature to thrive, and we're causing each other to thrive, and we're heading in that direction. We're not going to always be fighting with each other. Now, there'll always be differences, and there's always, you know, different frequencies. You're at one frequency, another person's another frequency. There's going to be an attempt to create some harmony and some compromise. There'll always be that type of stuff going on. But the humanity as a whole and the vibration of the planet is rising. And we're headed through the 24,000 year journey around the galaxy, and it's symbolically like winter to summer. Winter, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall. And you know, it takes 24,000 years. We don't really think about that so much. We know when we go around the sun because it happens once a year, but we also go around the galaxy. And there's different frequencies that the planet is exposed to. So the whole planet has a different frequency. So we're all rising with the frequency of the planet. And it's a more conducive frequency to your higher self, to the other side, to the God source, to your soul, to your subconscious, whatever you want to call it. But that's where the thoughts come from, and that's where the synchronicities happen, and the connection and all the magic. And to get yourself into that magic point, you got to be okay when you're not there. And you got to just learn to talk up the positive things around you so you're ready to pop when you can. When you get like, oh, all of a sudden my schedule opened up and now I have nothing to do but walk around in the woods today. And you can get to a very high vibration of love and acceptance and knowing that everything's working out. There's nothing better than the peace of knowing that everything's always working out. That really deep sense of peace, that's really what you're after. We can say, oh, you want to be happy. Happy can be kind of confusing as what is really happy, because then people think if other people would do things better, I would be happier. You know, so it's like it can't be conditional on the outside world. That sense of peace is a really good word for it. That deep sense of everything's always working out. Settle down. We don't need to save other people. We don't need to fix other people. There's no saving and fixing anyone anyway. Everyone has to get on their own journey, so you can just be an example of that journey, which is really what the purpose of these videos are. Just get on your journey and trust that synchronicity. But in order to trust, here's a key point. In order to trust the synchronicities and the coincidence and the intuitions and that sort of thing, in order to trust all that and follow your bliss, you got to turn down some of the fear. You got to turn off one radio station to pick up another, in other words. The fear radio station, the fear frequency is rampant because 95% of the population dials into it very often and doesn't even really, even this conversation people don't talk about, you know? It's important to not, we had a president, Kennedy, who said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Of course, he didn't make up that saying. There's a reason that saying is it's not really popular, but it's known. Because fear is a frequency, and that's the only thing you got to worry about is just don't get stuck in that fearful frequency. And I think we've gotten a lot of teaching in that with this coronavirus. So if I'm saying it's the most important thing, you know what? I think I've told it many times before, but I think there's so many positives that came out of that coronavirus. And one of them is this point of, you know what is the situation with fear? You know, you see people that kill themselves rather than deal with the fear of this coronavirus or the fear of life in general. You know, suicide is a big thing. But a big part of that is that your higher self, your true self, your true nature is a much higher frequency than what you experience in most day-to-day dealings on the planet. And that contrast between the frequency of who you really are and where you have to be in a day-to-day moment around people in your life can be just too much for some people sometimes. But that doesn't mean we don't want more sensitive souls coming into the planet, because I don't know, if you look around at young people, you can definitely tell that there's more sensitive souls on the planet now. And it's because of this frequency. They're going to be much more tuned in. Our children are going to be much more loving, accepting, and they're going to be better at this inner dialogue. They're not going to be shaming on themselves and so quickly and readily saying, this is what I don't like about what I see around me. This is what I don't like about myself. And people feel like they're being open and honest. Just, yeah, these are my things I don't like about myself. Why would you ever think of those items, let alone articulate them and share them with others? Why would you do that? You just put it in the back of your head and say, next time I'm meditating and I'm in that tuned in, tapped in, I'm out in the woods or on my chair with my plant or whatever method you're using to get relaxed, at the very least, in that sense of peace. When you get to that sense of peace, that's the time to think about the things that you don't like about yourself, or let them float into your mind if they want to. But always, you're just going to love on them. Love on your past, love on the things you don't like about yourself. And when you get to that high-flying disc frequency of everything's always working out in that peace, and you look at your past situations or the things you don't like about yourself, you'll find clarity. You'll find the true nature of what that's all about. And I guarantee you, I can find them all the time, so people think, oh, you're very supportive and you're very helpful. Well, I really dial it back because people don't really want to hear it. But if you know who you are truly, you can see who other people are truly. And what they want to call their weaknesses, I'm like, that's the other side of your strength. But you're not using your strength side because you're too much focused on what's going wrong. It's sort of like you'll never be inspired out here in the woods to how you can be helpful on the planet, or how you can help with your own journey of self-love, if you don't have, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, you know what it was? I noticed I'm at 15 minutes, and that's a good place to stop. And I don't want to get into another point, so I'm just going to let my brain go, I don't know what I was going to say, and I don't want to figure out what I was going to say. So I will just remind you, we ended with self-love. That's a great place to end it. Self-love is what it's all about. Until you really know and love and accept yourself unconditionally, you can't do that for anyone around you. And if you're not accepting someone else around you unconditionally, meaning you have conditions for them, how is that really helpful? We're all beating on ourselves so much, and we've been beat on by society, and we've been beat on by our parents, and very subtly, but we don't need anyone else to tell me what I'm doing wrong. So unless you see the perfection in yourself, you critiquing another is way less than helpful. So it's always just go back to yourself, work on your own journey, and you'll be an inspiration to others, and your high flying disc, your high frequency will bring others up in the room, and they'll be able to get through their own life with a little bit of a sense of peace. Let's give some peace to ourselves and to those around us. All right, love you guys. See you soon.